That Leonard Skinner plane crash in 1977 rocked so many people. I mean, I hadn't really experienced, as you'll hear in this clip, a lot of death until that happened. And though they were not on my A or B list, I still listened to Leonard Skinner. I like their earlier hits. So that plane crash, which killed Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, his sister Cassie, and others in the outfit, was devastating for so many people. We talk about that with a man who knew them all very well. From the Outlaws, the Henry Paul Band, and Black Hawk, it's Henry Paul on Rock History Music.
Did you know Steve and Cassie Gaines well?
I'm sorry. Steve Gaines?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Steve was a brilliant light. I heard Steve's not muscle shows, his making demo sessions. They were floating around for a while. Even as he joined Leonard Skinner, he had cut these demos, and I believe it was Macon, but they were just like crazy good. His playing, his songs, his singing. But when Ed King left, I think Ronnie knew that he needed a songwriting partner, so to speak, someone to give the band the kind of life it had early on with Ed. Ed brought a very significantly important voice to Leonard Skinner as a songwriter and as a player. Let me go on record and say that Gary Rossington was a great guitar player and tried and true core member of that group. I mean, I think to me, when you say Leonard Skinner, you think Gary Rossington, Alan Collins, and Ronnie Van Zant. Those three people.
Before we leave Leonard Skinner, how did you handle that plane crash? How did you digest that?
Like you. Couldn't believe it. I mean, death was new to me then. It was brand new. I had lost my granddad, but I mean, come on. I mean, it was my granddad. This was one of my friends, or one of my peer group, one of my coworkers. And one day he gets on a plane and doesn't come back. And it was just like, wow, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. It was devastatingly sad and unbelievably steeped in loss. Yeah. So, I mean, the Outlaws, in a lot of ways, owe their career to Ronnie because of the way he promoted our group early on. And so that in and of itself put him in a unique place in my life. But losing him I wrote one of my very best songs as a tribute to him. One of my very best songs, myself and Barry Rapp wrote a song called Gray Ghost. And to this day, it's one of the great songs lyrically and of course musically. But the analogy to compare Ronnie Van Zant to a Confederate cavalry officer who had a nickname called the Gray Ghost because he was hard to find. He was elusive. And because of the loss of Ronnie and the connotation the word ghost has as a spirit that remains thereafter, the metaphor in the title alone was worth the price of admission. And then the lyrics were very self-effacing. I mean, it's like the fast life and the music is just a grim disguise for the heartache and the fear of growing old. Without the ones that mean the most, it makes you realize that you're the one that's left out in the cold. That's some good stuff.
Yeah. That's top shelf, man.
And it's coming from a person who's trying to be somebody and just lost someone who was somebody. And it was just amazingly insightful, and the story is steeped in reality. The autumn wind whispers through the tall and lonely pines as the hour of fate is drawing close at hand. A free bird falling from the sky brings a bitter end to another southern man. I mean, it's just like, I'm comparing it lyrically, and a lot of what I write lyrically to, it's just real. And it's a story told in detail that's true, factually, and it happens to rhyme. And so, it's just, that inspired me to write Grey Ghost with Barry Rapp. And it's to this day, it's a pillar piece of music for me in my career in the Outlaws. People love the song. It probably gets as big a reaction in the course of an evening as Greengrass and High Tide. So, it's a great tribute to a guy that was enormously influential in the dream coming true in your life. And that's what he was to me.
Shorts. And then we'll be releasing the entire interview. It was a long hour-and-a-half chat with Henry Paul, who was, of course, as you know, a big part of the Outlaws in their early incarnation. Then he left in the 70s, formed the Henry Paul Band, which was successful. And then the country trio Black Hawk, which still tours today. If you want information on Henry, there are links in the description. But man, in this series, does he tell good stories about knowing the Eagles, hanging out with Leonard Skinner, most notably Ronnie Van Zant, their lead singer, working with Clive Davis. There's so much in this series. If you're a Patreon member, you'll get early access to everything on here. It's pretty juicy stuff. And he's writing a book as well. Remember to pick up a Rock History Music t-shirt and hats. You can get your own Rock History Music baseball cap now. Join our Patreon, as I said, get early access to everything. Links in the description, our TikTok. Check out the Facebook group for Rock History Music. Stay in contact with us. We'd love that. All the information's in the description. I'm John Bowden. More from Henry Paul in the next 2-3 days. This is Rock History Music.